We can finally put the Rams game behind us. Now it's time to move on to Tampa Bay. Monday Night Football, home opener. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great one. Now, no one wants to start 0-2 against two solid teams. The Rams are a solid team, and quite a few analysts have the Bucs making a deep playoff run. So it's very important for the Houston Texans to at least go 1-1 after Monday Night Football. And let's just get straight into some of the things that need to happen for the Texans to make that happen. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more Texans content. You saw the thumbnail. Let's just get straight into it. Get Nico Collins the ball. I mean, finishing with 3 receptions, he was about 4th or 5th by yards on the team with only 25. Jaden Higgins had more yards than him. Quite a few. Dalton Schultz, I believe, had more yards than him. There were quite a few other receivers that had more yards than him. Now, Nico Collins has said that we have to throw Nico the ball. Nico is our best offensive player at this point. That is obvious. And the thing is, he was only targeted 5 times. So if you're CJ Stroud, I understand it might be a scheme thing. It might be a Nick Caley issue. Whatever the problem is, you have to throw Nico Collins the ball. There's going to be times where you need to anticipate it. You need to throw it by his knees, somewhere where only he can get it and not the defender that's behind him or whatever. Get Nico Collins the ball. This Bucs defensive line is pretty good against the run. Bijan Robinson only had 12 attempts for 24 yards, 2 yards a carry. Not great. Now, he did have a lot more yards receiving the ball, but in terms of running, they have run stuffers. They have Vita Vea right up the middle. It's going to be hard to use Nick Chubb as a north and south runner. So you really need to also go to the quick passing game. Jalen Noel was not there against the Rams. He needs to be more involved. Jaden Higgins needs to be more involved. He needs more targets. Really focus on your playmakers so that we can come away with this with a win, because it's going to be hard to run the ball, and that's just the fact of the matter. Now, the next key is that, guys, the Houston Texans offensive line must bounce back, and they should have an opportunity to. They will be able to push out their first offensive line, the offensive line that they practice with a bit of an asterisk. You're going to have Jarrett Patterson instead of Jake Andrews at the center position. Good news is there, Jake Andrews, our starting center, rolled his ankle, so that's better than tearing something. But he probably will not be good to go for Monday Night Football, maybe, but I doubt it. And so here we have Ariante Ursary playing left tackle, Titus back at right tackle, and Ed Ingram at right guard. Now, we haven't actually received an official update about Ed Ingram's health. He had an abdominal issue that took him out of the Rams game. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that if Ed Ingram gets healthy, all of a sudden this is a good offensive line. I would be shocked if Ed Ingram came into this offensive line and was really good. But at least we get to see what their starting offensive line might have been. Again, you do have Jarrett Patterson, 59. I have some asterisks by this just because the offensive line had to shuffle, had to move around. Titus Howard started at right guard, then had to move out to right tackle, started at right tackle, had to move into right guard. Jarrett Patterson only played like a quarter of the game. Ariante Ursary moved to right tackle to left tackle. Really, the only person that stayed in their spot the whole time was Lincoln Tomlinson, the left guard. And yeah, guys, the numbers aren't great. Titus Howard performed the best out of the linemen. Jarrett Patterson performed second best. The rookie had a tough showing, as well as Lincoln Tomlinson had a tough showing. I will say, though, I do think you have a better opportunity against this Bucs D-line than you did the Rams D-line. The Bucs D-line is good. They're very good against the run. I don't think they're as scary rushing the passer. So this should be a better feel for the offensive line. If they have troubles blocking this Bucs D-line, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble because they're not as good as the Rams D-line. So got to have a bounce-back game. Hopefully you get Ed Ingram back, and hopefully he's decent because I have no idea. He's a failed second-round pick from Minnesota that they refused to play, and that saw his snap count decrease. But whatever, I digress. Offensive line must bounce back. Moving forward, we have to look at this Bucs offensive line. Can the Bucs offensive line actually hold up against this Houston Texans really, really good defensive line? The Bucs also had a shuffle that they put out there, kind of surprised everyone because they made the announcement official right before the game against the Falcons in Week 1. They took their starting center, who's a second-year player, they moved him to left tackle, and then they took their left guard and put the left guard at center, and then they called up a player, Michael Jordan, what a name, from the practice squad to play left guard. That was the shuffle that the Bucs had to do, of course, because they're all pro, really great, spectacular left tackle Tristan Wirfs is still coming back from an injury. So I say that to say that this offensive line has been shuffled. Unfortunately, if you look at the numbers for these guys, PFF ranks them 54, 71, 52. So again, Michael Jordan, the practice squad player, not being great. There is a chance that maybe Elijah Klein plays instead of him, who's another more veteran offensive line player. But still, left guard to center movement was fine, 71.6 overall grade. That's pretty average. But Graham Barton's where I really want to focus, the player all the way to the left, because it's hard to tell a center to play left tackle. And I think there were a few growing pains for Graham Barton, particularly in the passing game. But, I mean, I think Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson should be able to get home on this offensive line. It's very shaky. The only issue now is that we know that Baker Mayfield is more capable of escaping. He's more capable of running around. But I would take my bets, and I would bet on this Houston Texans defensive line. This offensive line is kind of just barely holding it together, and so I think we can take advantage of this O-line. So really just a battle of two offensive lines again. Just hopefully the Texans D-line can get through and put some pressure on Baker. Also, the Houston Texans DBs must bounce back. We saw Emeka Egbuka look pretty phenomenal in his first game as a rookie. Didn't necessarily have a ton of receptions, only 4, but 2 of them were touchdowns, and he averaged 16.8 yards a reception for almost 70 yards. Mike Evans came in after that with about 50 yards. A story I love hearing is that Emeka Egbuka apparently called the game winner. He basically said, "Coach, let me run a post, we'll win." Runs the post, ends up scoring the touchdown that wins the game against the Falcons because Younghoe Koo misses a field goal to send it to overtime. So they win 23-20 because of an Emeka Egbuka post route. I know a lot of Texans fans, myself included, would have loved to see Emeka Egbuka on the Texans. Really solid, 4-year starter for Ohio State, maybe 5-year, I don't know now, 4 or 5-year starter. Really solid player. He also was he was there for 93% of the snaps. That's what the graph on the very right is showing. Mike Evans was in there for 83% of the snaps, so on and so on. So yeah, they really lean on Emeka Egbuka. And this Texan secondary I thought was elite. I still think they are. Let me be very clear. They only gave up 14 points to a very good Rams team. So there's that. That being said, Puka Nacua had 130 yards on you. I'm not saying Mike Evans or Emeka Egbuka or Puka Nacua, but you can't let one of them break out for another 100-yard game. Also, there were some bad plays from Stingley against Devontae Adams. I know he got banged up early. Kamari Lassiter let all 4 passes thrown at him get caught. And then Kalen Bullock, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson also didn't have great days. Kalen Bullock missing his assignment on that touchdown to the tight end in the corner. All this to say, I know the Texans' secondary is elite. They need to bounce back because Emeka Egbuka is looking good, and we know what kind of a legendary receiver Mike Evans is. So really hope that they can continue their path on just locking down these receivers. And then finally, got to throw in some injury updates. Look, Christian Kirk, we were told, was progressing well. We were told that he might be a 2-week thing. Braxton Berrios should be back this week. We were told he was a 1-week thing. They're both dealing with hamstring issues. Again, Ed Ingram, D'Amico didn't mention him. I'm taking that because, potentially Ed Ingram can be back. That's why he didn't get mentioned. It was just an abdominal issue. Or maybe it's something more serious, and that's why D'Amico didn't mention him. Or maybe he just forgot. Whatever the reason, I do think Ed Ingram will be back. Of course, Cade Stover's out indefinitely with the broken foot. And yeah, keep an eye out for new tight ends or new fullbacks, maybe British Brooks, Jakob Johnson, those players getting some run because we only have one tight end right now, Dalton Schultz, and he's not known for blocking. So those are pretty much my key kind of takeaways from the beginning of this matchup. I think it's going to be a great game. I didn't want to just talk about C.J. Stroud and Baker Mayfield, but they're both great quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield can definitely get out there and run and put the offense on his back with his legs. But yeah, so that's really all I got for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to stick around for more Texans content. I will see you guys in the next one, man. Peace out.